This week's Parsha, Parshat V'etchanan, opens with Moshe recounting his tefillot HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'etchanan el Hashem. Chazal teach us that Moshe davened 515 gigamatria, V'etchanan, tefillot HaKadosh Baruch Hu, begging Hashem, Brana ve'ere et ha'aretz ha'tova, asher be'ever ha'yarden, ha'har ha'tov hazeh v'halvanon, asking and requesting of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he enter Eretz Yisrael. Chazal ask, why then did HaKadosh Baruch Hu refuse his pleas? The Sforno and the Or HaChaim both quote the famous Midrash in Tehillim and the Gemara in Sota Daf Tet, which explain that had Moshe Rabbeinu gone into Eretz Yisrael, then together with Am Yisrael, had he built the Beit HaMikdash, it would have never been destroyed. But what's so terrible about that? Wouldn't we desire an everlasting Beit HaMikdash? The Rabbanit Rebbe explains that HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't want the Beit HaMikdash to be built solely because of the schuyot, the merits of Moshe Rabbeinu, the koach elyon. Rather, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted Am Yisrael to initiate, so that there should be also koach delatata, the koach tachton of Am Yisrael. That's one of the explanations then that the Midrash offers to why in this week's Haftarah of Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, we have the double consolation. Nachamu elyonim, Nachamu tachtonim. Both HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Am Yisrael need to be consoled upon the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, because in the end they were both involved in its building and building a home for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And perhaps that's why it's so appropriate that this Erev Shabbat we celebrate one of the happiest days of the year, Tu B'Av, as Rab Shimon ben Gamliel teaches us in Gemara Ta'anet, Lo hayu yamim tovim li Yisrael, ela kiyom haKippurim, kachamisha ba'av ukiyom haKippurim. And why is Tu B'Av such a happy day? It reminds us, as Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, based on the pasuk in Shir Hashirim, Tze'ena ure'ena benot Zion, b'yom chatunato, b'melech Shlomo, b'yom chatunato, u'b'yom simchat libo. Yom chatunato, zo matan Torah. Yom simchat libo, ze binyan Beit HaMikdash. We're not actually celebrating on Tu B'Av, the binyan Beit HaMikdash, but we remind ourselves how we're going to rebuild the Beit HaMikdash, the second chance, or the third chance that we have. And what do we celebrate? The Gemara lists 6 different explanations for the celebratory aspect of Tu B'Av. Firstly, because after Banot Zlochad, Shibbatim were allowed to marry one another. Similarly, Shevet Binyamin was allowed to rejoin Am Yisrael through marrying its daughters. We also celebrate the removal of the Prustaot, of all the guards that Hoshea ben Elah finally removed, that now enabled Am Yisrael from the north to rejoin and reunite with Am Yisrael, with Shevet Yehuda, in the Beit HaMikdash. These 3 reasons help us understand how through restoring relationships, ben Adam l'chavero, we have what to celebrate and what to look forward to in the rebuilding. But there are also explanations, namely, finally, the last of the sinners of the spies stopped dying on Tu B'Av. And similarly, we also have the Harugei Beitar, those who were killed on Tisha B'Av in Beitar were now allowed to be buried. These explanations remind us of how we're going to fix the calamities of Tisha B'Av. And lastly, this is also the day we celebrate as having more time to learn Torah, to restore our relationship ben Adam l'makom. We would stop chopping the wood necessary for the Mizbeach, and we had more hours in the day. All these 6 explanations point to Am Yisrael's restoring of relationships, both ben Adam l'chavero, ben Adam l'makom. If we celebrate Tu B'Av properly, if we understand that this is an opportunity for us, Am Yisrael, to initiate the restoration of relationships between us and our fellow men, and also between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then in fact, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, Nachamu elyonim, Nachamu tachtonim, then we will see consolation, because we'll be able to restore Be'ezrat Hashem through the restoration of relationships, Binyan Beit HaMikdash. Shabbat Nachamu, Shalom V'Sameach.